first ever debate hosted by the Social Development Council of Cornwall area and partners here at what I find to be a beautifully appointed former gymnasium at the headquarters of the St. Mason Conservation Authority. I have the distinction of having joined the standard freeholder in Cornwall as editor in March. My name is Hugo. However, it's not about me tonight, it's about you. It's about your opportunity to get to know four of our candidates here in Stormont and South Glengarry, who are your candidates in next Thursday's provincial election. A predetermined draw was done to decide who speaking order, but in short order you'll have an opportunity to meet each of the candidates. We're a 3-minute night tonight. Everything is 3 minutes. So their introductory statements will be 3 minutes. There are a series of prepared questions that are 3 minutes each. And then they will have the one time we break that rule is for closing remarks at the end of the evening, and those will be 1 minute. There will be an opportunity later in the evening for anybody in the audience that wants to ask a question to do so. I would just ask that you step up to the podium that's to your left here and queue up there, and that way I can see you and I can call on you to ask your question. Please do try and keep questions to questions. I know sometimes we do like to give nice, long, fulsome introductory remarks to set up our questions. We'll try and keep them to questions. Our topic tonight is poverty in Ontario. The questions that have been developed by the candidates are limited to this topic, and I would just ask that as you step forward to ask questions from the audience that you also keep that in mind. Any off-topic conversation I will reserve the right to redirect it back on the topic or to ask the next person to speak. So, having said that, we'll get underway, and I apologize, I'm going to be sort of rolling back and forth here just because the way that the room has been set up. We do have one microphone, so if at some point during the evening there are any difficulties hearing, we can certainly pass the microphone around. However, I've been told that it's not the most reliable piece of equipment and it may cut out, so we'll just use our gym voices, recognizing we're in a former gymnasium, and hopefully that'll do for the evening. So, having said that, we'll get underway, and Liberal Party of Ontario candidate John Earl has drawn for first in the speaking order. So, Mr. Earl, if you could please go ahead with your opening statement.
Actually, before I begin, I'm wondering if we could stand and observe a moment of silence for the tragedy in Moncton, New Brunswick.
Certainly.
Hello everyone, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. This is our last debate of 6 debates. I'd also like to thank the Social Development Council of Cornwall area for hosting tonight's debate. C'est un grand plaisir de vous voir ici ce soir. Merci au Conseil de développement social de Cornwall et de la région. Also thanks to the South Nation Conservation, la Conservation de la Nation Sud. I'm running to be the next MPP of Stormont, Dundas and South Glengarry because I want to be your voice at Queen's Park. Je veux servir notre communauté et être notre voix forte at Queen's Park. I want this riding to be represented by a strong leader. A leader who doesn't sit in the sidelines towing the party line and let issues with constituents slip through the cracks. I want to see businesses grow, young people get good paying jobs, students to excel in school, and our most vulnerable getting the support they need. That's why we're here tonight. We need to take care of those who are most vulnerable in our society. The fallout from 2008 economic crisis is still being felt around the globe. Many people in Ontario are worried about the cost of living and their ability to pay for themselves and their families. We recognize the struggles of families that they are facing, and we want to help. You know, I had a gentleman in the office this week, and he said something that was quite apropos for this evening. He said, social care is a lubrication of our civilization. I think that's very true. Strong leadership means focusing on initiatives to help make the cost of everyday living more affordable. The Kathleen Wynne government will lower auto insurance rates, help people manage electricity costs, and fight to make childcare more available and more affordable. We will improve access to education, jobs, and lowering the cost of living for people across the province is an ongoing priority of the Liberal Party. The decisions that are made by the next government of Ontario will make a huge difference in people's lives. Le moment est venu de faire preuve de leadership. By making the right choices, we can make a positive difference in the lives of Ontarians. I want to be that positive difference for you and for SDSG. Le 12 juin, votez Earl. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Earl. Next to speak, your incumbent MPP and candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, Mr. Jim McDonnell. Mr. McDonnell, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Bonsoir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of tonight's debate as well. I think it's a lot of work, and it gives a chance for people to get out and listen to the candidates for a very important decision next June the 12th. Ontario is in trouble. We have a Liberal government that is only concerned with retaining power and forgetting about the needs of its residents. They have spent billions on failed programs and told us whatever they thought we wanted to hear, without regard for the truth or the well-built being of this province. So where are we after 10 years of Liberal rule? The strong, booming economy that they inherited is now lagging the rest of Canada. And now a have-not province for the first time in its proud history. An unemployment rate that's been above the national average for more than 7 years. And the youth unemployment rate that's even worse, double the average. Our once strong manufacturing sector, the backbone of good-paying jobs, decimated by over-regulation, soaring property and payroll taxes, and the outrageous electricity rates. Scandals, billions of dollars that we don't have, borrowed, wasted on ill-fated programs that will take generations to pay for. Every day I see people coming into my office looking for help, many on fixed incomes, seeing their expenses rise again and again. Property taxes, gas prices, electricity, insurance, drive-clean program, new trades tax, and more. Having to choose between paying the hydro bill and buying groceries. And it's not right, and it doesn't have to be this way. First of all, we have to take steps to make the cost of living affordable again. Allow people to live with dignity in their own homes, get good paying middle income jobs for people needing to work. I've met with many of you over the past 3 years. I've heard issues, no decent full-time jobs, lack of funding for needed services, looking for after needy children for decades, and are worried about the time ahead when they will be unable to. We have a waiting list for years, only to grow out of a program and having to get on a different waiting list for the next program. A PC government will make the tough decisions that will give businesses the confidence in our province that they can invest, hire new people, and at the end of the day, pay wages, pay hydro bills, the taxes, the expenses required to allow them to stay in business. We will redirect additional funding to healthcare, to hire more nurses, more personal support workers. In education, we'll hire more educational assistants to help students with special needs. It's time to put the needs of the province first. It's time to put the needs of the people of Ontario first. It's time to elect PC government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonnell. Next up in the order is your Ontario Libertarian Party candidate, Mr. Sean McCrae. Mr. McCrae, go ahead, please.
Thanks for inviting me here tonight. As a Libertarian candidate to talk about a critical issue in Ontario, poverty. Last February, J.J. McCullough wrote an article entitled Ontario's Culture of Defeat. He opened with, when an election is finally called in Ontario, chances are that progressive Conservatives will play the type and pitch a package of vaguely pro-growth policies that are vaguely pro-market, while the Liberals and NDP counter with egalitarian ideas that are marginally more statist. Yet all three will stand united in common consensus that whether government needs to do more or do less, the province will only have a brighter economic tomorrow, so long as the government does something. It goes on to say a fascinating new study released by the University of Calgary last week, this is back in February, however, suggests that the economic doldrums of Canada's largest province may actually be rooted in deep-set public pathologies that have very little to do with government one way or another. That's where I disagree with them. I think it has everything to do with government. On 24 November 1989, the House of Commons passed an all-party resolution setting the goal of eliminating child poverty in Canada by the year 2000. Since that time, billions of dollars have been collected through taxation and redistributed through hundreds, if not thousands, of federal and provincial government programs. And not only has the issue not been eradicated, but the percentages have risen. The growth of the problem here in Ontario being arguably the worst of our Canadian provinces. Socialism tells us to tax and spend more, but that's what we have been doing. And not only does it not work, it funds big government and huge bureaucracy, and thus worsens the problem. The solution to poverty is liberty. My ancestors were destitute when they arrived here in Canada. They were granted land, forested land with stones to move, houses, barns, and roads to build, swamps to drain, fields to cultivate, never-ending, back-breaking work. But the promise was prosperity through liberty. They suffered minimal taxation. What they earned, they retained. And because the money was sound and non-inflationary, what they saved held its purchasing power. 50 years later, the kids were university educated, and the family was firmly ensconced in the middle class. There are reasons the poor now find it nearly impossible to lift themselves out of poverty, as our ancestors did. Big government is not the solution, but the cause of poverty. In an article published last week entitled, "How Inflation Helps Keep the Rich Up and the Poor Down," we can read about the stealth tax of monetary expansion. It discusses our fiat currency enforced through legal tender laws.
Okay, your time is up. Please just wrap up your sentence.
Okay. Inflated by central bank balance sheet expansion and the role that fractional reserve banking plays in the expansion of credit and transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the finance industry, the public sector, and the politically connected.
Thank you,
I'll get
Mr.
an
McRae.
opportunity for the rest. Thank you.
And our final introductory remark tonight from your Ontario New Democratic Party candidate, Ms. Elaine McDonald. Ms. McDonald, please go ahead.
Thank you, Hugo. Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight, and I want to commend the Social Development Council for organizing this evening. The Social Development Council represents those people who are always working away in the background. It's not high profile, it's, you know, the invisibles in the health unit, in the education system, social services, Cornwall area housing, which includes housing for all of SDSG. I tend to think of them as the invisibles, but they are the public servants without whose labors we would be in even more dire situations than what you've heard described here tonight. And while I'm beginning, because we might forget some of our other comments, I just want to remark that I don't think it's the aggressive taxation on the part of the federal government that has contributed to the increase in child poverty. What has contributed to the increase in child poverty is the fact that the government, the federal government, since 1990, aggressively reduced the corporate tax rate in Canada, effectively emptying its own coffers with which it would fund social services. So in fact, while it paid lip service and everybody cheered, yeah, let's end child poverty, you know, Ed Broadbent led that cry and everybody thought it was a great idea, but they weren't willing to pay for it. They actually reduced corporate taxes from 50% of the federal coffers to 30%. Now what happens when you reduce taxes like that is you have to put in a whole lot of user fees and hidden taxes. So you might have noticed life maybe wasn't so great for you. Corporations got big tax cuts. You didn't. And unfortunately, our social programs took a hit. So I think we have to consider, in this company at least, we have to recognize that taxes are the price we pay for a civilization in which everybody has a place, where there's inclusivity. And that's what the Social Development Council is all about. It has to develop something from the current situation, which is that there are ruptures in society. Because of extreme poverty, we have isolation and we have fragmentation. So the whole function of the Social Development Council and all social development policies is to pull people together, because otherwise it's such a waste of human potential. Canada's greatest capital isn't money, it's people. But so many people can't reach their full potential because they lack the social services assistance that they need to achieve those potentials. So I'm here representing the NDP, cheering for the social services that serve us all. And I've spent the day actually at 2 events championing long-term care, which is one of the many social services that we all have to contribute to and support if our society, in fact, is going to be whole and inclusive and everybody has a place at the table. So does that mean, Hugo, I'm done?
Yes, that means you're over time.
Okay, thank you very much.